Live by the gun, die by the gun. That's how the story goes, almost every time. In today's video, we'll take a closer look at the wealthiest gangsters of all time. Most of them are dead or in prison, and a few live a life on the run. Who were they? How much money did their life of crime generate? Let's find out. Frank Lucas, an American drug trafficker. Lucas was known for cutting out the middleman and buying heroin directly from Southeast Asia. He would smuggle the heroin in the coffins of dead American service members. Like most gangsters, he was eventually caught and sentenced to 70 years in prison, but after turning informant, he was placed in witness protection. His sentence was reduced to time served in 1981, and in 1984, he was convicted for drug trafficking once again. He was sent to prison and got out in 1991. His net worth was estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars during its peak. He passed away in 2019 at the age of 89. El Chapo, the Mexican cartel leader and prison escape artist, was once worth an estimated $1 billion until his capture in 2016. El Chapo, or Joaquin Guzman, which is his real name, was Mexico's drug lord during the 90s and 2000s. Made famous in popular culture through the Netflix series Narcos, Guzman rose through the ranks to become number one. He escaped a Mexican prison in 2015 through a 1-mile-long tunnel that started under the shower in his cell. He was on the run for a year until he was caught in 2016. In 2017, he was extradited to the US and eventually sentenced to life in prison in 2019. He's serving his time in the most secure prison on earth, the Supermax, ADX Florence in Colorado, also known as the Alcatraz of the Rockies. No one has ever escaped, and no one ever will. Al Capone. He might be the most famous gangster of all time. He rose to fame during the Prohibition era and became even more famous after his death being depicted in multiple Hollywood movies. Al Capone was the gangster of all gangsters in the most gangster city at the time, Chicago. He was the head of the Chicago outfit, i.e. Chicago Mafia, which was an organized crime syndicate. He made a staggering amount of money through gambling, prostitution, and bootlegging. During the years, Capone was able to use bribes to get out of sticky situations with the law, except when it came to the IRS. He was eventually sentenced to prison at the age of 33 for tax evasion. He would be released early because of bad health and eventually died in 1948 from a stroke. It's estimated he was worth $100 million at the time, which would equate to about $1.8 billion in today's currency. Griselda Blanco, nicknamed Godmother of Cocaine and the Black Widow, was a member of the Medellin cartel. She started her drug trafficking career in the late 70s after illegally immigrating to the United States. She settled in Queens, New York and built a sizable cocaine business. After being indicted on federal drug conspiracy, she fled back to Colombia only to return to the US in the 80s. Her new homestead would be Miami. She ran the biggest cocaine business for many years, distributing to New York and California. Blanco was eventually captured and sentenced to 20 years in prison. After having a heart attack in prison, she was released early and deported back to Colombia. During the height of her drug career, her net worth was estimated to be around $2 billion. She was shot dead in Colombia in 2012 at the age of 69. Carlos Leda was a Colombian drug trafficker with ties to Pablo Escobar and the Medellin cartel. He was known for taking over an island in the Bahamas in the late 70s and making it his personal drug trafficking headquarters with its own airstrip and multiple planes. The island was called Norman's Cay. He would fly cocaine from Colombia to the island and then keep going to the United States. At its height, it was estimated that over 300 kilos of cocaine would arrive on the island every day. This made Leda very wealthy with an estimated net worth of almost $3 billion. He was eventually captured and sentenced to life, plus 135 years in an American prison. This would eventually be commuted to 55 years, and eventually he was released after 33 years in 2020. He's currently in Germany, living out his life with prostate cancer. Leona Helmsley. Maybe a bit of a surprise on this list and not the traditional gangster, Helmsley was nicknamed the Queen of Mean along with her second husband. She created a real estate empire in New York with famous addresses such as 230 Park Avenue and the Empire State Building. The Helmsleys own several hotels in New York as well, such as the Helmsley Palace Hotel, the New York Helmsley and the Park Lane Hotel. At her peak, Leona controlled over 23 hotels across the United States. Helmsley was known to treat contractors badly and refusing to pay them until she would get sued. She's famously known for saying, "We don't pay taxes, only little people pay taxes." She would eventually be imprisoned for tax evasion. During her prime, she was worth over $6 billion. Leona Helmsley died lonely in 2007 at the age of 87. Dawood Ibrahim. He's the head of the Indian organized crime syndicate D Company in Mumbai. He is currently on the wanted list of Interpol for cheating, criminal conspiracy, and running an organized crime syndicate. The rise of his criminal career started in the 1980s with drug running, prostitution, and gambling. In the early 2000s, he was declared a terrorist by the United States government for his ties to Al-Qaeda. In 2010, he made the FBI's most wanted list. He's currently on the run, and his huge fortune, estimated at around $8 billion, helps him stay away. It's reported that he currently lives in Pakistan. There was a Netflix documentary made about him called Mumbai Mafia. Semyon Mogilevich, he's believed to be the boss of bosses of most Russian mafia syndicates in the world. Mogilevich is believed to direct a vast criminal empire and is described by the FBI as the most powerful and most dangerous mobster in the world. The reason for him being so powerful and dangerous is said to be his reach and connections on a global scale to governments, military, and law enforcement. He's been accused of every crime in the gangster handbook, such as extortion, contract murders, money laundering, and drug trafficking. From 2009 until 2015, Mogilevich was on the FBI's most wanted list, only falling off since he was considered living in Russia, and the US doesn't have an extradition agreement with Russia. There's currently a $5 million reward for any information leading to his arrest. His net worth is considered to be $10 billion. Amado Carrillo Fuentes, also known as the Lord of the Skies, Fuentes was a Mexican drug lord who seized control of the Juarez cartel after assassinating his boss. His nickname came from the fleet of planes he owned to transport cocaine. He amassed an immense fortune that's estimated to have been $25 billion, which would equate to around $40 billion in today's appraisals. Just like number 9 and number 1 on our list, he was made famous in popular culture by the Netflix series Narcos. He died in 1987 after undergoing plastic surgery to alter his appearance. Pablo Escobar. When you think of cocaine and cocaine traffickers and drug bosses, there can only be one king, and that is Pablo Escobar. As the infamous leader of the Medellin cartel, he was the main distributor of cocaine to pretty much the whole world during the 80s, but mainly its biggest market, the United States. Escobar has been depicted in several movies and TV shows over the years, along with being mentioned by almost every rapper at some point during the 90s. He was loved in Colombia by many and cultivated a Robin Hood image as he would give back to the communities and provide for the poor. The fact of the matter is that he was just as much a terrorist, being behind assassinations of a Mexican president, bombing government buildings, and even a commercial airliner in his search for ultimate power. During his peak, he was considered to be one of the wealthiest people on earth, with an estimated net worth of over $30 billion. His demise came in December '93 when he was on the run from the Colombian and US authorities, along with his biggest rival, the Cali cartel. He was shot dead on the roof of a house he was hiding in at the age of 44. So, does crime pay? From the people on our list, we can say that it does, for a time. If it's not death, then it's most certainly long prison sentences that await a criminal. Let us know your thoughts on today's video in the comments, and we'll see you next time.